Welcome to today's virtual career exploration video. I'm Danielle Britton, Talent and Education Director at the Greater Binghamton Chamber of Commerce and the Greater Binghamton Education Outreach Program. Today, I'm joined by Andrea Gregori, Artistic Director for Theater Street Productions. Welcome.
Thank you, Danielle. Good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for coming in to be on the video with us today.
My pleasure.
So can you we're going to jump right in and have you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself and your career path.
Sure. Well, I'm a professionally trained opera singer. I got my undergraduate degree in voice performance from Temple University. And then I was invited to become a resident artist with the Tri-Cities Opera, which is what brought me to Binghamton a number of years ago. And then I decided to found my own theater production company called Theater Street Productions as a way to give myself and talented colleagues additional performance opportunities, which also inspired me then to pursue a graduate degree in arts administration through the University of Denver. So I feel that I've had the fortune of having very good training both in performance and administration, and that's one of the things that is so appealing about this area, is that it's so rich in the arts.
Great. What made you interested in pursuing your career in the arts?
Well, I was raised in a bit of an unusual situation. Both of my parents were opera singers, so I guess I didn't know any better. It was part of my DNA. We actually moved to Germany when I was 2 months old because my parents were singing in Germany. They both received contracts there, so we lived there for 8 years. And then we moved back to the Southwest, to New Mexico, which is where my mother was from, and my parents founded an opera company there. So I learned a great deal just through observation without even realizing it, and I was literally raised in the art form, both on and off the stage. I didn't think it was something that I would end up pursuing, but that's where life took me.
Yeah. So what does a typical day look like for you, obviously before the coronavirus, in your different career? We can even talk about a couple of different, because I know a typical day is different depending on what you're working on, but what does it kind of look like?
Yes, well, fortunately, I have been, so my typical day would be, I'm also a voice and piano teacher. And so my typical day would be broken down into segments, working on grant writing for whatever project that I might have coming up. A lot of it is done in isolation and through phone calls, through email, but also my voice and piano students then towards the end of the day, which is something that I very much look forward to. Now, with the advent of the coronavirus, that has changed quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I have been exploring the wonderful world of modern technology and trying to teach through Zoom and Skype, which has been a wonderful resource. I have been able to maintain relationships with my grant writers and funders and patrons, and had a big performance project planned for June, which is somewhat up in the air. Mm-hmm. So the virus has changed my life probably mostly in terms of the teaching. Mm-hmm. But I've been trying to maintain as much normalcy with that as absolutely possible.
Yeah. What kind of hours or how long of a day do you typically work?
It varies depending on the performance project that I have coming up. So in the arts, we are very often making a full-time living in the arts is very difficult. So we often have to supplement with teaching or administrative positions, or for 2.5 years, I worked for the Tri-Cities Opera doing their public relations and marketing. I was their director of community engagement. I've also worked for Columbian Financial Group as an underwriting support specialist, and then supplemented with the income from my theater company. So a lot of it is being resourceful, being creative. So once you put in your administrative hours at your day job, then you have to make sure that you're setting aside enough time for all the administrative work required of the theater company. So I would often have to put in extra hours in the evenings, weekends. There is sometimes unpredictability, just depending on the opportunities that happen to
Mhm.
arise. So you just have to be very flexible and resourceful.
Yeah. What sort of, we'll start with, what sort of courses might or activities might students get involved with in high school to prepare them for a career in the arts?
I would say if they have, depending on what their interest is, what their
Mhm.
inclination is, I know that the public schools here locally have very good arts programs. And I've come to know more about that just through my own students. I know Johnson City, Binghamton, Vestal, they have very good arts programs. I would say get involved in the choir, in the orchestra, in the band, the production values of these musicals that the high schools present. I've just been so impressed by the budgets that they have to work with. And even if they're not specifically interested in a performance career, there's still so many ways they could get involved in a production off stage,
Mhm.
working on the set or helping with advertising or helping with marketing, social media. There's so many different angles to production that aren't necessarily performance related.
Mhm.
And this career path is very rewarding, but it's also very challenging. So I would say that, you know, whatever it is that is of interest to you, figure out what that is first, and then you will never work a day in your life.
Very true. Are there certain skills you would say are important to working in the arts field?
Dedication, discipline, determination. One of the lessons that I have imposed so often on my students is that whether they decide to pursue a career in voice or piano or performance or not, the discipline that the lesson teaches is invaluable and can be transferred to so many other aspects of their lives. And I think that's true for life in general. You know, you have to find your own path, and the arts are a wonderful way to help us do that because of all the different lessons that it teaches. It just
Mhm.
teaches us how to think critically, how to be better people, how to feel, how to think. And it's not always about learning how to feel good. It's about finding your own true path and what it is that will bring you fulfillment and make you happy.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you very much for, oh wait, I'm sorry. I did have one other question. If you had any other that, I mean, that was so great that I forgot. The other last question I was going to ask was if you had any other advice for anybody interested in your field, but you answered the last question so well. I felt you answered. But is there anything else to add?
We are so blessed to live in an area that has so much to offer in terms of the arts, so many different performing arts, visual arts, the art walk. There's so many ways to get involved. The Endicott Performing Arts Center is just one example. They have a wonderful kids theater workshop. They have a teen workshop, so many wonderful hands-on opportunities. And I think it's unusual that an area of this size has so much to offer. So I would say that there are so many wonderful resources to take advantage of just within our own backyard. You don't necessarily need to be in a big city, and you know, the reasonable cost of living here makes it that much easier to stay here and take advantage of all those wonderful opportunities.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for spending time and talking to us about your career in the arts. If anybody has any follow-up questions, you can send me an email at dbritton@greaterbinghamtonchamber.com, which will be shared with this video as well, and I can get those questions answered for you.
Great. Thank you, Danielle.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today, Andrea.
My pleasure.